Well, hey guys, welcome back to the Dream Lab. I hope that you are ready for another dream. Let's just jump right into it. So we've got Diana. Why don't you come on up and share your dream with us?
I was walking to a park/street to get to my car. Terry couldn't offer a ride or walk with me to my car, but he was there with me on the light rail, and somehow we chatted on Ecclesiastes. I made this remark that made the light rail guy chuckle, and it was about old age and time. There was another older gentleman who was there but wasn't aware. I got off the light rail thinking it was my stop, but I still had a few miles until it was actually my stop. I ran towards the light rail tram who was still there, and I asked the driver, if he could let me in until my actual stop. He said sure, but he'll need to notify his supervisor. So then at the light rail, as the tram started moving, I just realized I'd left my wallet back at the first stop when I got off. So I informed the driver. He stopped immediately and said, in that case, we should go back. I'll buy you another tram ticket, so I don't need to inform my supervisor, and you just wait until the next tram, which was about 10 minutes or less. He went back. I got my wallet. We were both trying to figure out what I needed in order to stand next to the next tram that went in that direction. So there were numbers and letters in the floor, and it was connected to an app. I wanted to be in the area with the shade, so I attempted to make that happen. And in this process, I can't tell if the bus driver was still there or had left, but there were other passengers all of a sudden, and my siblings and family in the dream were quite different, and there was this group that hijacked us. And it was almost as though I was watching and somehow also in the scene as this really, really small person. I overheard their conversation on mind control. I was worried. They even got my cat, who was fattened up in their studio. I begged for a microchip, which controlled the cat's eyes instead of a cochlear implant, which controlled the cat's ears, and they agreed, and it was injection instead of surgery. But to others, there were different things happening. The kids that were hijacked, were wrecked in surgery and needles, almost as though they were trying to numb their souls by suppressing it. The adults were somehow infused with a Mini Trump and Mariana and another politician like Diane DeGetti. And for example, my mom just needed to swallow all of these little figures, and then she was able to be let go. And as for me, the version that was like me, they wanted to strip out my soul first in order to control my body, but as long as my soul was still alive, they couldn't control my body. But I was so tiny that when they extracted me, they thought I was gone, but suddenly my soul/tiny being was still present, running around under a wall shelf, and I saw this other little kid being prepped for his procedure, given lollipops after lollipops as distraction, but instead he used it to cause a ruckus and basically stick the practitioner's hand with it and spit it out. This created distraction. I needed to hide, and the cat came out to me and hid me. And I was fortunate. I didn't think I'd be noticed. And the next thing that was going to happen was they're going to ship everyone to Colorado, including me. So my body was in another place because they'd already shipped out the body, and I had this conscious awareness of what was going on, but I was also terrified that someone would find out because I was aware of everything as I was there. And another hijack happened when someone suspected something wrong in Colorado and wanted to know more. That person was hijacked inside of a storage unit with red full body containers lined up that she happened to trip in. I needed to be smart enough to not get into that scenario, but it also seemed like there are some people who had already been mind control and the rest were next, and they were not to know now.
Okay. So my question, who is Terry to you?
So Terry is my neighbor, father figure. He became family when I moved to Colorado.
Okay. So let me see, before you go too far, let me see if I can remember.
Okay.
There was a lot that was in that dream. All right, so it starts out, you're on a bus with Terry. So then you are getting on a tram, the light tram, so you could get to where you're going. And you're on it and you're having a conversation. Something you said made the driver chuckle. And then you get to a stop and you get off thinking that it's your stop. Then you realize, no, this isn't my stop. My stop is still a couple miles later. And you go get the tram driver's attention. He lets you back on. He says, yeah, but I'm going to have to call my supervisor. And you start to move down the way. And as you're moving, you realize I left my wallet. And so then you tell him, hey, I left my wallet. He's like, well, actually, that'll make things easier. Let's go back. I'll take you back to where you are. You can get your wallet. I'll get you a different tram ticket. And then you can get on the next tram that's going to be coming in about 10 minutes. And so he gets you back there, and then you're trying to figure out where you're supposed to stand because there's all these letters and these numbers, and you have to use this app on your phone to get you in the right place to get on the next tram. And now there's other people that are there, people that are like your family. They felt like your family, but didn't necessarily look like them. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, everybody gets hijacked. And the people that hijacked you are kind of taking over certain things. And one of the things was your cat. And they were going to replace the ears with these auditory things. And you're like, no, let's do the eyes instead of the ears. And so they did the eyes. They agreed to do the eyes instead of the ears. And there was, like your mom had to swallow these little figurines of politicians. Somebody else was having like names of politicians and information of politicians being forced into them. And then other people were having parts of their soul stripped away so that they could be controlled. And then they needed to be able to take your soul away so that you could be controlled. And they started to take it away, but they didn't completely take it away. You had a little tiny bit left, and you were able to kind of run and hide. And they're trying to figure out where you are. And you're trying to not be seen. You're hiding underneath of some cabinets or some shelves or something. And then your cat comes and kind of hides you. And then they're taking everybody off to someplace else. They took your body off to someplace else. And now they're going to take your soul off to someplace else. And then you see that there was somebody else that had heard about something that had happened in Colorado that had also gotten hijacked. And they were in a storage container with these red kind of containers that were kind of the size of their body.
They were actually sending us all back to Colorado.
They were all sending everybody back to Colorado.
The hope was like some people were, mind controlled and others weren't. And the ones that were mind controlled were not aware. And they were kind of setting up as though everything is normal.
Okay. Yeah, but this person figured out something was wrong. So they also get hijacked and they're part of that. And that's basically where the dream ends. Okay.
Yeah, there's one part of, so my cat was able to kind of hide me because there was this little boy who was kind of in the middle of procedures.
Right, with
and
the popsicles.
He was basically
people.
being distracted, and then he kind of turned it back on the person who was, trying to distract him and cause this giant ruckus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Dream Lab. So... this dream is a lot easier than you think it is. This dream is a lot easier than what you think it is. Do not get distracted by details. One of the first things you're going to want to do, come up with a title, and then before you even try to figure out focus or sub-focus or anything else, how could you say the basic plot of this dream without any details in as few words as possible? So, somebody says warfare. That is one way, but that has enough that there's a story, right? So, think about that. That will help you to simplify so that you don't get stuck. Because if you get stuck trying to figure out why she wanted the cat's eyes instead of the cat's ears, you're not going to understand this dream. It's that whole thing of getting caught on the details it's like looking at a picture on your screen and you keep on zooming in, and if you zoom in too far, you can tell exactly what color each pixel is, but you have no idea what the picture is anymore. If you get too caught up on the details, you lose the big picture and things just get fuzzier and fuzzier. Keep an eye on the big picture because it will be easier. So, I'll say that. Now, you guys that are watching, go ahead and stop your video at this point. You're going to pause it, come up with your title, and then say out loud, how would you say this dream in as few words as possible? Once you're done with that, come up with your focus, your sub-focus, some details. You don't have to have every detail. Now, the nice thing, you guys, you just get to rewind the video and re-listen to the dream if you forgot something. Poor people here doing this live, they're going to have to remember. But when you're all finished and you have an interpretation, start the video again and we'll let you know what we got here in the lab. All right, guys, welcome back to the Dream Lab. I hope you had a chance to work through that, and I hope you didn't get too caught up in the details, because this dream, like I said earlier, it's a lot simpler than what it seems when you hear the dream. So we're going to work through some of the pieces and figure out what we're supposed to do with this dream. Let's start out with a title. What would we title this one? Hijacked but what? Hijacked but hidden. What was yours? Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Just because that's so much fun, I've got to write that. That's just, yes, please. Yeah, somebody starts the video at this point. What? All right, who or what is the focus? The dreamer. All right. The focus. And let's start with kind of the first scene or the first portion of this. What are our sub-focuses? So Terry. Terry, who's a father figure. Okay? That'd be a sub-focus.
The discussion on Ecclesiastes?
Yeah, talking about Ecclesiastes. And that is one of the biggest clues to the meaning of this dream, by the way. So yeah, let's move to the light rail.
The conductor.
Yeah, so we've got a conductor. So this is kind of scene 2, if you will. And then what else do we have? Wallet. And that was off of a wrong stop. So these are all details. Anything else essential? That's the third scene. We'll get to that. But in just the conductor, the wallet, the wrong stop, and then let's put wait for next tram, right? Because that's when everything happens. Got to go back, wait for the next tram. What was the word you used? Hijacked, I think was the word you used. You said hijacked. Hijacked. So this is our next big section. What are the details off of this? It's been said a few times. We will get the cat on there. It's time for the cat now. Okay, anything else? Family, yeah. What else? So mind control. Okay. Yeah, so let's just, under hijacked, we'll put the people that did the hijacking. Yeah, because we put the enemy or whatever we want to term that. Yeah. I mean, let's see, remove soul. Because you talked about them trying to remove your soul. Mm-hmm. What is your soul to you? What do you think of when you think of the soul?
Oh my gosh. I think of life.
Your life force, your life
like
essence.
force, I think of meaning. I think of the substance of meaning.
Okay.
I think of individuals. I think of personality. I think of all of those things.
Yes. All right, now that's very key because some of us would have a theological definition of soul that would put us in the wrong place if we tried to apply that to this dream. Because the dream uses a language that the dreamer is familiar with, not that we're familiar with. And if you catch the feeling in the dream, you would have caught there was that piece to it. So that's one of the keys, even in thinking about dreams, because we teach all the time, well, the soul is the mind, will, and the emotions. But that doesn't get the meaning that the dreamer was using that word to try to convey. Does that make sense? So that is very helpful in thinking about that dream. And let's put lollipops, because that was kind of key. And we'll just remember the whole kid with the lollipops. It was poking the guy, creating the distraction, which allows her the potential to escape. All right.
Does the fact that she keeps shrinking, is that a significant piece to her escape? Was she?
Yeah, that they were stealing her soul, and so she ends up with this tiny little bit of her left. So does that mean humility? Well, let's think about the dream. Now, going back and just picturing this dream, picture you being in the dream. What are you feeling? Fear. Super nervous. Chaos. Mayhem. Okay. Question for the dreamer. That kind of, she's making she's like, yeah, that's exactly it. That's what I was feeling. When you woke up, did you still feel that?
Oh my gosh. I knew that it was an answer to a prayer.
You knew that this dream was an answer, but did you still feel all those emotions?
I felt like I was kind of escaping those emotions as I woke up. So I like it was resonating, but it was fading. It was all fading. And up to the point where I was writing, it was all fading, right? Like, so I can remember very vividly. And when I talk about it, it still gives me the chills, but yeah.
Okay. So those emotions were familiar, but as you woke up, you started to realize you're escaping. Even with a little piece of you, you're escaping. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'm clarifying that because it helps, one, that gives you timing, but it also tells you the type of dream that we're dealing with. What type of dream is most often going to be the most familiar to the dreamer? Say that again, Theo.
Soul or self-conditioned dream?
Either a soul dream or a self-conditioned dream, because often a self-conditioned dream is a soul dream showing you what's going on in the soul. So, this is a soul dream. God can use soul dreams. Just because it's a soul dream does not mean God's not using it. But that familiarity, this is stuff she was already feeling. This is stuff she was already dealing with. And it comes to the surface in this dream. So a lot of the meaning of this dream is going to be the emotions of the dream, not the details of the dream.
The soul is saved.
The soul is what?
Saved is the
The soul is saved. In the end of the dream, yes. Yeah. Okay. So, thinking about that, who wants to come up and share an interpretation for the dreamer? Did everybody change their interpretations? What was Ecclesiastes? Hopelessness. Ecclesiastes is an essay on hopelessness. Can you ask what chapter of Ecclesiastes, or it was just about Ecclesiastes?
So my question is, I brought up Ecclesiastes, and for some reason Ecclesiastes 2 stuck out to me because I thought I heard you say you remembered yourself saying to Terry that Ecclesiastes was about something about the youth talking about those that were older or the wisdom of those that are older.
So Terry is an old guy. He's about 69. I was and I think this is really where I'm kind of asking about context. Ecclesiastes was a conversation that we also had in real life about meaninglessness and meaningless life in particular. So that was kind of comparing to, well, he's now reaching the end of his life and he's questioning time. And I was kind of talking about this concept of time in Ecclesiastes and what meaninglessness versus meaningful looks like, what under the sun versus outside of the sun. And then the driver who was there chuckled.
So the driver of the light rail laughed at that point. That's when he kind of chuckled, got his attention. Yep. All right. Is this making more sense? Now, here's one of the keys. When you hear a dream, you're not trying to figure it out with your mind. You need to actually go into the dream and feel the dream. And inside of the dream, it will make a lot more sense. And then you realize all those details, like they all have meaning. We could spend a day and pick through all of those little details, and there's some meaning to them, but they're not what God was saying. They would just help her realize some of the stuff that she's been thinking about and trying to deal with and trying to process. But all she needs to know is the end of the dream, how she woke up. So you could give this a one-sentence interpretation. There's been a lot of things in your life that make you feel overwhelmed. God wants you to know you are going to make it out with who you are. You're not going to lose who you are in the situation that you're going through. Does that make sense? Now, that's the nutshell. There's a lot more that you can add in and you can put in. Anybody else want to bring out some other pieces, some other aspects of it? Justin.
Terry, who represented the father, she wanted to go in a certain direction, and he said no. And that was the part where we felt like it was, the dream had two categories, self-conditioning and timing. Like there was either a job, career, ministry, something that she wanted to go into, but it wasn't yet timing. And it almost had like a warning, if she had gone into, if she goes without the father, then she would actually bump into all this stuff and has the possibility of forgetting her identity.
Okay. So let me just ask a question of the dreamer. But real quick, we'll ask a question of the dreamer.
Sorry.
Poor Chris. I'm like making him run all over the place. He's going to get his exercise today. So how does that sit with you? How does that feel to you when you hear that interpretation?
So not quite. Not quite, because I had asked if Terry could accompany me to get my car, because I needed to get my car in order to drive.
Yeah.
Right? And I didn't have any other means of transportation. And he said, no.
Yeah.
Almost as though you had to go alone.
Yeah. So it wasn't that he was trying to get you to go in another direction. He just wasn't going to go with you on that part of the journey. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So quick question, then we're going to come to Alan for his interpretation. So those types of things, when you have an idea on a dream interpretation, well, how does this sit with the dreamer? Does it sit with the dream itself? That's one of the questions that you ask, because that'll help you recognize if you've got the right interpretation or not. Yeah.
Not really a full interpretation, but some details that might give you more insight. Losing the wallet and getting off at the wrong stop may indicate that you've struggled with things like identity. Am I where I'm supposed to be in life? Things like that. But it's interesting that the supervisor paid the price for your ticket. You know, he's already paid the price for you to get where you need to go, and that he's on the light rail. It's not the dark rail. It's the rail of light. You know, and so I just want to give you hope. I think the dream has hope in it, that just hang with the Lord. He's already paid the price for you, and to get you where you need to be and where you were born to be and who you were born to be.
Yeah.
He was going to let you go back. He was going to take you back to get your identity. And you're not going to lose that along the way either.
All right. Yeah, 2 more comments, and then we'll wrap this one up.
So the wallet is where I kind of fixated, because the 2 things you carry in your wallet is your ID, your identification, and provision, money. And so I feel like God's going to restore all of those things just over and over and over, tenfold to you. But I feel like putting your little hand in his big hand and not taking the wrong stop is really key, because the enemy wants to derail you from the light rail, right? So I think for me, it was just really, really simple. You know, what you focus on. And the cat, I think, with the ear, but it turned out the seeing, I think that's key too, because how we live free is we think it, see it, do it, right? So anyway.
Yeah, and right here we had a...
Kind of, yes, what everybody is saying. I definitely think this is a hope-filled dream. I actually thought it was a destiny dream, so I was totally off on that. But well, my sense from it was I just saw a heart longing with you, with the Father, and you really wanting to be in a place of humility and to say, Lord, I don't know what to do. And I just really felt like I saw your heart in that. I'm sorry, I'm an emotional person. But when I looked up Ecclesiastes, for some reason, I was drawn to Ecclesiastes 2. And the Holy Spirit to me was telling me, you need to study this. The end of the wise and the fool. And at go to kind of like the last half of the chapter, but nothing is better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that his soul should enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw was from the hand of God. For who can eat, or who can have an enjoyment more than I? For God gives wisdom and knowledge and joy to a man who is good in his sight. But to the sinner he gives a work of gathering and collecting, that he may give to him who is good before God. This also is vanity and grasping for the wind. And I do think there's warnings in there for you, but I think that this whole thing the Lord is showing you, ultimately you're going to be okay and you're going to stay intact. Like everyone keeps saying, your identity, you go back for it. But to me, the heart of the Father was transferring to you, saying he sees your heart of humility, he sees your desire, and he has the answers. And I pulled from, with like being the youth of this generation right now and the election that's coming up, and you said your mom was swallowing politicians and things. It's just very timely for where we are as a society or even in the nation. So I see that you're kind of called to be almost like a watchman, where you can see what's happening around you, but you're not deceived, because it was the ears that you wanted to keep intact with that soul, and not the eyes, because the eyes can be deceived, but the ears can hear that of the Father. So that was my take on it.
That's good.
Totally
That's good. Yeah.
Can we get that?
That's so good.
Oh, I was going to just say, yeah, no, that does make sense for this particular time and season and where I'm at. I'm actually in the process of changing a Colorado state policy for the Board of Nursing. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So that night I was asking God, because for whatever reason Ecclesiastes came up, and my neighbor father figure was very much fixated on gaining knowledge, right? And spending the rest of his old age with gaining knowledge. And I was just like, God, I want him to have such meaning and to not just throw this all away. Can you show me what's going on? Can you show me what's happening in the spirit? And then I got this dream, and it was like a lot. It was so like, I was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot. I mean, my soul's in it too, right? Yeah. But there's also elements of like where destiny and spirit meets. And you totally brought that. Yeah. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah. And that's one of the keys. We sometimes hear soul dream and our immediate thought is, oh no. It's not necessarily bad. And God can still speak into the soul and show us, this is what your soul's processing. Here's hope. Here's what I'm doing. Because if you're going to take that dream and then expand it instead of a one sentence, now I get the benefit of using some of the stuff that she's talked about and putting it together. But you know, you're going on a journey, and there's some places that you have to go that other people aren't going to be able to go with you. And you've been on a journey already, and you've almost lost your identity, but you realized what you lost, and you've gone back. And in that season of waiting for the next opportunity, some things have started to happen that were not really good. Family members, people that you love, people that you care about, that have been overtaken with input from this world and the world system. And it feels like their soul is being stolen and they're just being controlled by their thinking. And you're trying your best to escape that and not have it affect you as well. The things that you love and the things that you care for. I love the piece about, protecting the ears. Hey, take over the eyes, but protect the ears, because you have a value for the voice of God and hearing what he would say. And so in the midst of this, God's going to use the things that you love and even the childishness of others to give you an opportunity to escape with your true identity. You're not going to lose it in the process. Yeah. Amen. That's so good. Yay. So good. Any other questions before we move on? No? All right, guys, thanks for joining us here at the lab. We'll catch you on our next episode.